There is a very sound argument to be made that the Back to the Future franchise, the movie series, is the best ever made. Because there's no particularly weak episode in this franchise that brings down the whole thing. I mean, everything else, it's like we have our weak entry. We have our Attack of the Clones. We have our Salvation. We have our Batman and Robin. But not with Back to the Future. And with Netflix adding the entire series to their streaming lineup, I thought this week I'd take a look at them. So, starting with the original and best, 1985's Back to the Future. This is directed by Robert Zemeckis, though I'm sure everybody wants to give Steven Spielberg credit. One of my favorite movies. Tell you right off the bat, I give this 4 out of 4 stars. It seems almost unhateable. You're not going to run across people who say they hate Back to the Future. It simply doesn't happen. Now, with everybody commenting on the things they like about this, and me being who I am, I did, when looking at this, I tried to show a little bit of scrutiny to it. I've seen this a lot. And I'm looking at what's wrong with it, because I already know what's right with it. Things that are right with it, just touching on a few things here. Awesome score, Alan Silvestri. Great soundtrack. That's the power of love. Huey Lewis and the News. Great 2 songs there they got going. Michael J. Fox as a kind of everyman. Marty McFly. He's like assisting this Professor Doc Brown. And he kind of goes into the lab where he has all these clocks set up, has this giant subwoofer, blows it out, realizes he's late to school, gets on a skateboard, hitches a ride behind a Jeep Wrangler, or maybe it's a CJ at this point, but you're listening to The Power of Love right there. He's going through the town, Simple Hill Valley, I believe it is, and he's got his main squeeze, Jennifer, at the school. I like the original Jennifer more than Elizabeth Shue. That's neither here nor there right now. Auditions. Ends up kind of playing an instrumental version of Power of Love, and Huey Lewis is there telling them they're too loud. So we have a little cameo for the music. This gets kind of played up again in Back to the Future Part 3. But he learns that his dad's car's busted up. He had a big date planned with Jennifer, his main girl, and he's not going to be able to go to it. Well, Doc Brown calls him up and says, hey, there's an emergency that's come up. Need you to go by the lab, pick up the camcorder, meet me at the mall. Goes to the mall parking lot, sees this truck there that unloads a DeLorean. He says, hey, I made a time machine. You made a time machine out of a DeLorean? Well, I figure, gotta do it with some style. So that works out for him. They put Einie in it, Einstein the dog, and they're using the time machine. And, the effects for this are great. They hold up except for one shot as the car's heading towards them. It's got this great lightning going on. And, I've got a dog chasing me. So, speaking of Einstein, he goes in you see the dog over there? Yeah, I got a pit bull chasing me while I'm running around with a 6-foot pole strapped to my chest. Great. Einstein goes through, and the shot where it's like a reverse, and it's showing the streak of fire go through the legs of Doc and Marty. The composite effect there is not quite right on, but so much of the rest of it is that, dare I say, is better than what you'd see today. Today they would try to do too much. Oh, you'd have to be like inside of it, looking at like the time matrix and all this shit while things are going back in time. It'd have to be too over the top. In this movie, there's simple cutaways at times. Boom, flash, somebody went back. It's that simple. So, these Libyans show up, And this is where I'm going to get onto the movie. Back to the Future is, dare I say, unquestionably a tad bit, in the least, you heard me, racist. Libyan nationals show up. Doc has got this, what is it, uranium or something, plutonium. He was going to build a bomb for them, said he would, and he lied. So they showed up, they're going to kill him, and they're caricatures. You know, they're not speaking any particular language. My gun's jammed, kind of stuff. May as well have been going Durka, Durka, Durka. So they shoot Doc. Marty enters the DeLorean, speeds off, goes back to 1955. And at this point, you're like, okay, we got our time travel here. Marty's back in the 50s. Sure. But it's really staging for setting up this nice little romantic story of how a kid's parents met. You know, it's something you may have wondered before. How did my mom meet my dad? And they may have told you, and it may not have been completely the truth. Well, he learns that his dad was a peeping Tom, checking out his mom trying on a bra, fell out of a tree, got hit by a car, driven by, future father-in-law. Well, Marty's there and intervenes, pushes him out of the way. He's the one who gets hit, taken in. They think his name's Calvin Klein because it's on his underwear. That's a nice little gag. The humor in this movie is largely little gags, and it works fine for me. At the local malt shop, there's this bartender, janitor, cleanup guy, Goldie. He's like, hey man, you gotta stand up for yourself, George McFly, And Marty says to him, yeah, you're gonna be somebody big someday, Goldie. You could be mayor. Mayor! So there you go, black guy can be mayor someday because he was inspired or given the okay from a white guy. A little racist. That's two occurrences. Well, with his mom having the hots for him, Marty can't really have that going on. So he tries to get George to ask her out. That doesn't go as planned. But he says, okay, later, you and me, we're going to have a little fight. You're going to punch me out. She's going to like the guy that stands up for her. She's going to go to you. It's going to work out. All this is going down. You got this clock tower they know is going to be struck by lightning. They know when it's going to happen. And so because of this, they know when to get harness lightning to give the 1.21 gigawatts of power needed to go back in time because they were out of plutonium or whatever the hell it was. And so they're setting up this experiment. They got the enchantment under the sea dance going down, and Marty's supposed to be in place, but Biff showed up, and Biff is kind of getting his way with the mom, and then George shows up, says he thinks it's Marty, and he's like, hey, you get your stinking hands off her. And so he ends up having to knuckle up. He punches him out, spins him around 360 degrees against the car. Of course, I glossed over a bit of stuff here, but because they have a famous chase sequence that they end up redoing in the other two movies, where he goes through the town square. But this is Back to the Future. Punches him out. You guys know all the rest. Why am I going through this shit? And they have their dance. In order to get the dance to work, there was this situation where Marty got put in the trunk of a car, and the guy got him out, but hurt his hand, couldn't play guitar. Marty plays guitar for him, and while he's doing this, he's jamming pretty good. And this guy, his name's Marvin Berry, and he's like, hey, got my cousin Chuck on the phone. You know that new sound you wanted? I just heard it. So Marty McFly's playing a Chuck Berry song as though he's the one who created it or inspired him to do it. And there you go, black guy who it's often said was ripped off by Elvis, that he's now stealing from a white guy. Third strike on the racist meter. Unquestionably at least a tad racist. Then a bit happens where we have about 30 minutes left in the movie, and a lot of it could have been trimmed. You know, zany antics of Doc Brown messing with a wire, trying to hook it up to the clock tower. Oh, I hooked it over here, now a tree branch fell down. Got it hooked this way, oh, now it came unplugged. You know, Marx Brothers stuff. I feel like you drop that and it's a stronger movie, honestly. It wasn't that funny, it's just a waste of time. Well, everything goes right. Marty's got his parents back together, everything's working. Time machine works, goes back to the 80s. He was gonna, you know, he told Doc Brown, hey, yeah, I wrote a letter for you. And I didn't really like the way this went down because he's like, here's this letter. And the letter, he's writing it, talking out loud. Hey, so this is gonna happen in this and this date. I'm narrating it because it's a movie. Out loud, like who does this? So, Doc tore up the letter. He said, I can't know too much about the future. But Marty thinks, hey, I'll get there 10 minutes early. Warn him anyways. Gets there, he's actually a little bit late getting to the mall. Doc gets shot, but he reveals, hey, had bulletproof shirt, vest on. Hey, I pieced that letter back together. Figured it must have been pretty urgent. So it is what it is. And, next day, Marty wakes up, realizes that, like, his folks are doing well. They're wealthier. Biff works for his dad now. You know, Biff, like, detailed this truck that Marty gets that he had eyed earlier. And I like how he's always calling him Butthead, but here he goes, oh, hey, Marty. You know, that's a nice touch. I liked that. And so, it's a cute movie. It ages very well. This is not something that any possible reason could need a remake. No excuse. None at all. Oh, yeah, and then, of course, Jennifer sees them. They're going to have their big date this weekend, I guess. And they're about to head off, but Doc shows up. DeLorean there, but now has a Mr. Fusion attached to it. Takes garbage, turns it into energy. And he's like, hey, something's got to be done about your kids. What are kids? Yeah. Here, bring her along. Where we're going, we don't need roads. Car flies off. Pretty damn good effect. You know, there's no CGI here. This is stuff that took attention to detail that you don't get today. Back to the Future, like I said, could have cut a little bit. At least a tad bit racist. Still a phenomenal movie. 4 out of 4 stars. Tomorrow, I'll give you my review of Back to the Future Part 2.